My name is Courtney Harge. I am a member advisor for Fractured Atlas, and I'm here to present to you our audience building webinar for friends, fans, and funders. We will focus on ways that you can understand your audience and their relationship to your work. We'll also discuss factors you can use to identify different markets and ways to assess those markets' value to your project. Additionally, I'll share some resources regarding audience development at the end. Okay. As we go through, feel free to type your questions in the chat box, but there will also be dedicated time for questions at the end. So, Fractured Atlas is a nonprofit tech company that works with artists. We offer a variety of programs and services that help artists strengthen the business side of their practice. Our 4 core programs are Fiscal Sponsorship, which helps artists raise charitable donations from individuals, corporate sponsors, and grantors. Space Finder, which is an online marketplace that helps artists find performance and rehearsal space. Artfully, a web-based software application that helps artists sell tickets, take donations, and track fans. And Insurance, is an online marketplace that which helps artists minimize their own risk and liability. I'm going to provide a bit more detail about these programs at the end of the webinar. So, you've spent your valuable time making work that is important and powerful. You know that what you're doing is turning out exactly how you want it to go. You've got a venue to exhibit or perform the work. You've corralled your collaborators. So you're standing on the precipice of greatness. Now, how do you find an audience? Who is your audience anyway? Audience is not just the people who come to experience your work or open your website or read your newsletter. Your audience is also all of the people that don't do all of those things, but could. And it's not to say that what you are offering will or should resonate with everyone in your universe, but the first step in audience building is understanding what groups you are, should, and shouldn't be reaching out to. You should also understand how each of these groups are different from each other and how that might affect how you interact with them. Some people have a dirty word for audience building: marketing. Marketing gets a bad rap in the arts world. Many associate it with deception, social engineering, or relentless capitalism. It doesn't have to be this way. Marketing is the way you communicate your promise and uniqueness to your constituents. Marketing isn't just advertisements or flyers. It's everything that you do. Every point of contact with your stakeholders is a marketing opportunity. Every encounter is a relationship, and relationships work best when you plan for them over the long term. To begin building your audience, the first thing you have to do is to identify who your potential target audiences are. Here's a pop quiz. When describing your audience, what is the only wrong answer? Everyone. Everyone is not your audience. You don't like everything, and neither does anyone else. That means that there is work out there that is not for you, and that's okay. Conversely, there are audiences out there that aren't for your work. To connect with the right audience, you'll have to be specific about the type of art you make and the type of audiences that will appreciate it. Your target audience is the group or groups of people that prefer the type of work you create. A helpful way of identifying those audiences is to think about who. Who are they? What are you offering them? Where do they live, both physically and metaphorically? Why should they come, and how are you going to convince them? And how much will they pay? So we'll start with who are they? Who is being served? You want to identify specific segments in your target audience, i.e. seasoned subscribers, after-school art students, funders, etc. A good way of helping to segment your audience is identifying what makes them special. Who we are is complex and multi-layered. Here are a few ways to dive deeper into those layers. We're going to go over 4 areas: geography, demographics, behavior, psychographics. So geography. Think about the geography of the place where they are, and not just the physical location in relation to you, but also how their place influences their behavior, their sense of self, their relationship to civic and social life. When looking to reach new audience, think about creating points of entry. What are low-stakes ways new audiences can be introduced to your work? Demographics. We want to think about who they are, not just from a simple demographic question, for example, age, race, ethnicity, nationality, income, etc. While those can be helpful, it's also helpful to think about how their identity plays in relationship to the other groups they might interact with, especially in your space. For example, if a lot of your audience is middle-aged, what is it like for a teenager in your space, and vice versa? Do they feel welcome? Same thing goes for seniors, or if you're working in a particular culturally specific group, what is everybody's experience in your space? That's how demographics can help you identify your audience. Also think about behavior. Think about what they do other than attend your events. Your audience members have full, rich lives outside of your context, so understanding how you fit into their lives is important. It can also give you other clues to their values and interests. For example, if you know that most of your audience is really big into recycling, composting, farmers markets, you could guess that they are interested in their environmental impact. And that might be a good idea for you to do some thinking about that as well. Psychographics is a little more complicated. Psychographics aren't just what a person thinks or believes. They also are how they see themselves. For example, two people might both see themselves as entrepreneurs, running a fresh new startup. But one person might be more of a self-interested free market capitalist, and the other might be dedicated to adding to the public good through social entrepreneurship. Those are similar people with very different psychographics, very different ways they think about themselves. Now that we've talked about who they are, what are you offering them? Think about what you offer to your audience. It can be very easy to lump all of your offerings together, but try and differentiate from each other. For example, just because a big splashy musical and a groundbreaking experimental play are both in your main stage season doesn't mean that those offerings mean the same thing to your audience. If you want an audience to embrace your work, you must make sure they fully understand who you are and what you do. Where do they live? Where are you delivering your message? This can be your own space, but it can also be advertisements in publications, posts on social media, billboards, etc. Considering how your tactics can change depending on where you are reaching your audience is also key. Why should they come? I think it goes without saying that different people want and expect to be spoken to in a way that feels specific and sometimes personal. You don't necessarily need to have radically different language for each segment, but it should be important to be intentional about how you communicate in a way that appeals to their interests and identity. You also want to be conscious of which of your offerings you are pushing to a specific segment. Like I said before, everything isn't for everybody. And how much can or will they pay? Each audience segment will have a different financial ability and sensitivity to price. Even if someone has a lot of money, that doesn't necessarily mean they're predisposed to paying more for your product. If you have multiple options, present them. Think about ways that you can partner with organizations on price. There are a variety of ways that you can accommodate different sectors of your community via price. So using these 5 questions, you can get a sense of your current and potential audience. This identifies who is out there and where you can find them. Now you know where they are, how do you talk to them? What do you say? Good marketing doesn't just identify who your audience is. It also appeals to their unfulfilled needs and desires. Henry Ford is famous for saying that if you've asked his customers what they wanted, they would have simply said a faster horse. But as we know, Ford knew what they were really after was a faster, more efficient way of getting from one place to another. When crafting your message, it's important to look at what your audience is trying to do. One of the particularly challenging parts of cultivating fans in the art sector is that products are dealing with what's called multi-sided markets. This means that different markets are looking for very different things from your project. Some people want entertainment. Others want provocation. Others still want to experience the classics or traditional works. You can craft different messages that appeal to each of these needs. And that's how you turn potential audiences into fans. A fan is any member of your audience who wants to support you. So you've conducted research and found all these new groups to connect with, but how do you make them into fans? How do you analyze all of this information to figure out which segments to focus on? Have a seat on the sofa and figure it out. Here are 4 things to think about when evaluating your audience segments. They are size, opportunity, fit, and access. Size. How many people are in the segment you wish to evaluate? If it's large, that might mean there's a lot of opportunity to grow, but it could also be expensive to reach all of them. If it's small, that doesn't mean they don't matter. Oftentimes, we describe the super fans, and they're going to be the smallest and most vocal part of your audience. In many ways, however, they're some of the most important people. There may be a small segment of your audience that is easy to approach. Balance the size of the market with your resources to make decisions about the markets you should pursue. Opportunity. How much opportunity exists for your audience in this segment? Another word for opportunity is competition. Are there many other options in the market reaching out to the segment? Are there other artists offering similar work at a similar time? While only you can produce the work you want to make, it's important to understand how much opportunity a segment of your audience has to experience something similar to what you're offering. High competition will make it more challenging to differentiate yourself. It could also drive down your profit margins if others are slashing their prices to be competitive. Fit. Think about how this segment and their beliefs or identity fit with the mission of your work or the piece you're presenting. This is particularly important if your work has socio-political themes. As I said earlier, every work isn't for everybody. Don't diminish the value of fit just to try and get butts in seats. A small, connected audience is better than a large, disinterested one. You also want to think about access. In the broadest sense of the word, when reviewing your audience segments, access is important. Different audience segments access your work differently in terms of content, space, and physical location. How do people get to your work? Is there additional work you'll have to do to make your work more accessible to segments of your audience? Consider how you can make your work more accessible for those segments if you wish. So, to recap, when you're reviewing your audience, you can analyze them in the following ways. Size. How big are the segments? Are they big and costly, small and mighty, or anywhere in between? Opportunity. Who else can serve this segment? Is there a chance for you to partner with that other opportunity? Fit. Does what this segment wants align with what you are offering or can offer? Access. Can people get to your work literally and figuratively? Are there gaps that you can bridge? So we've broken down audience development into two very big steps. Identify your markets using who, what, where, why, and how. And analyze your segments using size, opportunity, fit, and access. Here are some resources to help you manage those steps. Nielsen, the company that does TV ratings, has an option to pay for audience segmentation data. For larger budget organizations or projects, you can work with them to find detailed information about audience viewing, consuming, and purchasing habits. They also offer a free zip code lookup feature. This allows you to look up an area by zip code and get a detailed overview of the demographics and lifestyles of a consumer segment in that area. This can be a great place to start when looking up a potential audience. Here are other ways you can find information that can also be helpful. Start with general population statistics. General population statistics allow you to know who is in an area and what their needs are. Things like local agencies, media outlets, government bureaus can provide population statistics and aggregated information that can provide a snapshot of an area. This is really great if you're trying to figure out how your audience fits in the kind of greater population data of your area. If you're looking to, some people are more focused on equity, diversity, and inclusion, as they're looking to reach other demographics or people who are not currently accessible to their work. It's great to understand what does the area you're in look like, and what is the access for the people that you're trying to reach. For arts information, sometimes you're trying to figure out how different arts data, you're trying to figure out what is arts consumption in an area, or what are stats on the type of art people are experiencing. So great resources for that are the National Endowment for the Arts or the National Arts Marketing Project. You can also look at reports commissioned and distributed by major funders, people like the Ford Foundation, the Wallace Foundation, and a few others offer reports or white papers that talk about arts funding, arts patronage, and audience experience. Those can be very helpful to you. You can also conduct new research using your own internal databases and other records. You can analyze your email contacts, conduct audience surveys and interviews, and see who is coming to your events. You already have some fans. You've already got some audience. Reach out to them and see what you can learn. So feel free to use a combination of these resources to better understand your audiences and audiences you can contact. We're almost there. We've covered a lot of information. I know you have questions, but before we get there, I'm going to offer a very brief overview of Fractured Atlas and our programs. So, as I said, Fractured Atlas is a nonprofit tech company that works with artists. We empower artists, arts organizations, and other cultural sector stakeholders by eliminating practical barriers to artistic expression so as to foster a more agile and resilient cultural ecosystem. All of our programs are accessed through our website, www.fracturedatlas.org. We are a membership organization with 3 levels of membership. As you can see, these are some of the perks that membership can provide. As a member of Fractured Atlas, you can apply and purchase insurance, have access to Artfully, which we'll talk a little bit more about, have access to Space Finder, and to our fiscal sponsorship programs. As I briefly said, we have 4 main programs: fiscal sponsorship, Space Finder, insurance, and Artfully. And I'm going to talk about each one individually. So, by extending some of the benefits of our 501c3 status to artists and arts organizations, they can solicit tax-deductible donations from individuals, sponsorship from corporations, and grants from foundations which would typically only otherwise be available to nonprofits. Once you are a paid member of Fractured Atlas, you'll be able to access the fiscal sponsorship application. The most important parts of this application are the artistic component of your project and your project's public benefit. Fiscal sponsorship is ideal if you are an individual artist trying to seek support for your arts practice, a new or small arts organization that wants a training wheels period before deciding if you want to pursue your own nonprofit status, or a for-profit arts enterprise that wants to seek both investors who plan to share in the profits of your work and nonprofit donors who want to make a tax-deductible donation. The mechanism of fiscal sponsorship is such that a donor institution makes their contribution directly to the 501c3 organization. So in our case, a donor who wants to support your work would make a donation to Fractured Atlas. We would then issue the donor a tax receipt and hold the donation in a fund restricted for your project's use. You would then request the funds from us, and we would disperse them to you in the form of a grant. Fiscal sponsorship is a great way to turn those fans we've been talking about into donors. Our next program is Space Finder. For artists, the process of finding workspace can be frustrating and inefficient. Meanwhile, venues have limited resources to spend finding new renters. Earned revenue is critical for creative venues, yet many rental spaces are tragically underutilized. Through the Space Finder program, Fractured Atlas is increasing visibility of rental options, helping artists find the space they need, and helping venues promote and rent their spaces. There are over 5,000 spaces listed and 554,000 searches for space every year. There are also $800,000 or more in annual rental referrals to participating creative venues. Space Finder is available and are coming soon to these locations. The dark gray we are currently in, and the light gray is where we're coming soon. Next is insurance. Thanks to the combined purchasing power of the Fractured Atlas community, our members have access to high-quality coverage for much lower rates than would otherwise be possible. More importantly, with one foot in the arts and another in the world of insurance, we've worked with some of the world's leading insurance companies to design a number of proprietary insurance programs that are specially tailored to meet your specific needs. We've even made the process as quick and painless as possible. Our applications are available online. We have insurance for Burning Man artists, for opera companies, performers, for individual artists, teaching artists, filmmakers. We offer a variety of insurance for all of your arts needs. Last, but certainly not least, is Artfully. Artfully is an online system to manage your tickets, donations, and contacts. It's a simple, elegant way to keep track of events, people, and your everyday work. You can sell tickets on your site or through an Artfully storefront. You can sync your MailChimp lists and contacts. And you can provide ticket buyers and donors with automatic email receipts, among other things to manage tickets and patrons. Artfully also works with fiscally sponsored projects, so you can track your donors and other fans in the same place. It's a great way to start understanding your audience and managing your segments. So, to recap, fiscal sponsorship helps artists raise charitable donations from individuals, corporate sponsors, and grantors. Space Finders is an online marketplace that helps artists find performance and rehearsal space. Insurance helps artists minimize their own risks and liability. And Artfully, which is a web-based software application that helps artists sell tickets, take donations, and track fans. So we've come to the questions portion. Feel free to type them in the chat box. You can also forward your questions via email to support@fracturedatlas.org. So yeah, do we have any questions? Well, thank you all for participating in this webinar. Feel free to, again, reach out. I've put our contact information on the slide. As I'm seeing sorry, I see a question. This is, how would one go about offering a space for rent? You can actually go, if you go to fracturedatlas.org, you can access Space Finder at that point, and then you can set up a listing through Space Finder. The next question is, when conducting new research, are there suggested questions to ask current audiences? That's a good question. Simply, the first question is what brought you to our space? That's always a good question. How did somebody hear about you? That helps you know what of your current channels are working, how people are responding to you, and or what brought them to where you are. So that's a great question to start. A next question is really to think about, what do you want to know? Do you want to know what types of work they want to see? Do you want to know, how often they attend arts events in your area? Really think about, what is the information you're trying to assess from your audiences? What are you trying to get when you connect to new audiences? And ask those questions. You do want to keep it simple. You don't want to get too complicated, and you want to figure out when you're asking them, but you want to make sure that you can have access to the information that you would like. Are there any other questions? Alrighty. Well, again, thank you all so much for your attention. We are also, this is a new webinar for us, the audience development webinar. So I'm happy to hear your feedback around, or if there's information that you feel you would have liked to know, if there's information that you're very happy to know, feel free to send us an email to support@fracturedatlas.org, and we will definitely take your feedback into consideration as we grow and develop our webinar series. Thank you all again for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.